Good morning. Welcome to Hindu Newspaper Analysis, 10th January 2023. First article talks about Tamil Nadu Governor walks out of the house. There are two articles. One article talks about Tamil Nadu Governor walks out of the house as CM objects to deviation from speech. Ravi, first Tamil Nadu Governor to skip portions of text of speech. These articles are quite interesting to analyze the governor's role. First and foremost, if you observe the arguments put forward by B.R. Ambedkar in the Constitutional Assembly, he said the governors of Indian states doesn't have any responsibilities, only functions, which are aided and advised by the Council of Ministers. Now, on that note, we are seeing several deviations from the functions of the governors. Began with West Bengal governor who denied his assent on Howrah Municipal Corporation Bill. Similarly, Kerala and Tamil Nadu governors also denied their assent on important legislations put forward by the legislative assemblies. Now, in continuation to the series of events, now we have one more conflict, that is, in the first assembly session of the new year, after the Mr. Ravi, the Tamil Nadu governor, supposed to give his address to the assembly. However, he skipped the portions of the speech. He skipped the portions of the terms, for example, Dravidian model of governance. He also missed the names of the people. For example, para 65 of the speech said, and I quote, following the principles and ideals of stalwarts like Thanti Periyar, Anal Ambedkar, Kamraj, Perarigar, Anna, and Mattamizai, Arigar, Kalaiganar. So these are the names which are skipped by the governor itself. Now what is important for us is, this is also a deviation from the governor's responsibility. Now we need to understand that Tamil Nadu had this incident for the first time, but Kerala governor already did this in the past. 1969 it was recorded also. Kerala governor deviated from the given speech. So this is also, we can say, an issue with respect to governor's conflict. So we can remember this for our answer writing point of view, rather than writing only from the legislative, denying the assent. You can also go for this evidence of how governors are moving away from their responsibilities. Next article talks about difficulties in determining age. Now this article is generally not at all useful for our examination point of view, because no question will come based on how to determine the age of a person. But this article can be utilized in several formats. For example, this article can be useful for the essay, role of technology, or how technology can improve the governance. This article also highlights the loopholes in the institutions. Let me explain one by one. Major point of the article is, in a much disgusting rape incident in Kathuwa, Supreme Court said that one of the accused is not a juvenile and he should be prosecuted as an adult. Now for this confirmation of adulthood of the person, Supreme Court relied on several new technical or new technology innovations. Now the new technology test includes like test of wisdom teeth, epigenetic clock technology, DNA methylation levels, so on and so forth. Apart from that, it also mentions about extent of ossification and union of epiphyses in bones, all these things. These estimates are given by as per the medical jurisprudence and toxicology for India by J.P. Modi. Now this is a fairly useful step to determine the age of the person. What we need to understand is, are these steps are required if you follow the rules and regulations clearly? Now what are the rules and regulations clearly? The rules and regulations are, according to the Registration of Births and Deaths Act 1969, It is the duty of hospital to register the baby whoever born in their hospital, even also deaths. If they are not subject for this, following this rule, definitely they will impose the penalty of 50 rupees. Now there was a draft amendment to increase this penalty to 250 to 1000 rupees for an individual and an institution respectively. Unfortunately, this was not followed in the letter and spirit, because most of the deaths, most of the births are not recorded in India. There is an interesting report by United Nations Children Fund Report 2016, in which only 72% of the births of children below 5 years were registered in India. And out of 26 million born every day, around 10 millions went unregistered in India. Now this is a very serious stone. But what is further interesting is, in India, National Family Health Survey shares that institutional deliveries are rising to 88.6% in 2019-21 from the 40% to 2005 to 6. What is even surprising is, even still we don't have a proper registration of births and deaths. So before relying on this technical developments, we should also reform our laws. At the same time, we should implement them in a serious manner. So apart from that, lack of school records is one more issue. So lack of school records, like students registration and high dropouts, and still students are not going to school. So registration is also not there in the schools, is also a worrying factor. So all these points could be useful, not only in the questions directly on the A's, but on the essay writing points, but on the government's point of view, and can be useful in interview also. The article talks about a mountain reeling under human aggression. This is in fact very important article in today's lead articles, because the article was written in the background of the recent devastating landslides in Uttarakhand. Now you are well aware that Uttarakhand witnessing landslides from last few years, and in addition to this, one of the holiest place and the town in the Uttarakhand, Joshimath, which is having the one of the prominent mutt of Adi Shankaracharya, witnessing landslides like anything. Now, what are the major things we need to understand from this article? Other highlighted several anthropogenic factors which are unsustainable to the Himalayan ecosystem. Other begins with Chardham project, which created a lot of troubles to the Himalayan ecosystem, which tried to bring unscientific road construction and catastrophic consequences to the mountain ecology. Number two, he said that armed forces, for their smoother and faster all-weather connectivity projects, and also for the pilgrimage tourists, they are constructing roads, but they are not able to follow the sustainable practices. Third most important one is Government of India proposed 66 tunnels in Uttarakhand region, in which 18 tunnels were already operation, which severely affected the habitat of the Himalayan structure. Fourth, this is going to have the reason going to have the infrastructure projects like rail and electric locomotion, which is creating a lot of disturbances to the mountain slope, which is already unstable due to the geological factors. Fifth point, the road developments like highways and railway tracks, which are also creating a lot of erosion activities and recurring landslides in the region. Sixth point is the climate change, which is also disturbing the rainfall system and which now having the severe impacts. The massive destruction projects creating infrastructure damage to the natural aquifers in the region, which is going to create water troubles. Seventh point, the author stated that the projects like Tapovan, Vishnu Ghad, Hydro Project Tunnel that passes just below Joshimath, which was now in news, which is sitting on an old glacial deposit. And this is going to have sinking of the natural habitats. Eighth point, it said that the water levels in the region is depleting because of the destruction activities. And ninth, which is in fact most important one, is the tourism points. Tourism is one of the massive income, but it is rising its footprint. It was noted that last year around 60,000 pilgrims came to the Chardham Yatra. And these tourist people started to dump the plastic waste into the nearby areas, and it is not cleaned periodically. That's the reason it is creating massive rise in the waste in the local regions. And 10th point, that is the agriculture practices in this Uttarakhand region has also changed. Now only less than 20% of agriculture land in Himalayan districts of Uttarakhand is being farmed, and rest of them became fallow land. And this is very unfortunate that government is not focusing to the sustainable development, which is even itself moving away from its principle, that is best practice norms to minimize the impacts on the mountain ecosystem and landscapes. And what is unfortunate is even National Disaster Management Authority, which reported on Chamoli district, stated that in the long term it will be necessary to focus on finding alternative sources of energy, as the area appears to be environmentally sensitive. However, all these reports are not seriously considered by the government. Now it is the high need to change the government perspective on this issue. Next article talks about time to count. This article is written in the background of delay in census. Now, from the last 3 to 4 days, there are a series of articles on census. I would like to sum up everything in this recording. Now, census in 2021, which is a 10 years activity, started in 1881 under Lord Mayo in a formal manner. So that was delayed nowadays. Now, census in India was postponed on several factors. The primary one is COVID-19 pandemic. Now, in 2021, Ministry of Home Affairs, which is the apex body to conduct the census in India, it postponed the decennial exercise due to pandemic. And later, Government of India tried to conduct census in several instances, but still it is delayed. A parliamentary panel also trying to provide an alternative timeline for the undertaking of census. But this is not exactly followed by the government right now. But why census are important? Why the delays is so problematic? The first reason is National Food Security Act 2013, which mandated 75% of rural population and 50% of urban population will get subsidized food grains. That was not updated till now. Now, PDS system in India is based on 2011. We are getting several international reports from UN that our poverty might rise due to pandemic effects. So, out of 121 crores, approximately 80 crores people now get covered under this PDS system. However, economists like Jean Dress and Ritika Khera in their study found that this is covering only 67% of 2011%. So, National Food Security Act, which covers the 67% of total Indian population, must be updated as per the current times. Next important point is census is also important for understanding for better implementation of several government schemes. For example, National Social Assistance Program, which provides basic pension to the widows, disabled people, elderly population who are below the poverty line. And it is also important for the better reach of the programs like Integrated Child Development Scheme, providing food, nutritional food to the pregnant women, so on and so forth. So the total population beneficiaries or potential beneficiaries could be found by the census in an exact manner if you upgrade it. Third important reason is census measures the migration by counting them whose current residence is different from the place of birth, and definitely gives us the migrant report, because right now we are lacking the proper and consolidated migrants report. Fourth one is, there is one scheme called as Government of India is planning to move this scheme in the pan-India level, that is one nation, one ration, which also requires the data of the people who are migrants. And for the portability of food subsidy entitlements, the migration data is much needful. Next, census is also important to get the answers, particularly how far health sector in India is reaching, what is the need of the social services to the vulnerable sections, and it also can understand what are the impacts of the MG Narega on preventing distress of migration. Further, it can also help us to determine who are the real Dalit Muslims and Dalit Christians in India, and we can also assess the situation of them. Further, census is also important to find improvements in our literacy and education levels, economic activity, etc. It can also be helpful to assess the success of the programs like Jal Jeevan Mission, Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, so on and so forth. Further, we can also find out how far pandemic resulted in deaths among the adults and orphans, so on and so forth. Apart from the social economical aspects, politically it is important because Constitution in Schedule 4 and Article 81 talks about the composition of Rajya Sabha and composition of Lok Sabha respectively is also based on the population. It is well noted that after every census we should go for delimitation of the constituencies. So for that process also census is need of the hour. What is unfortunate is our census is driven by legislative, it is a statutory norm. The Census Act in 1948 drives our census project. But if you compare with the other countries like Japan and USA, the census duty is taken as a constitutional mandate. So India need to retrospect its stand on census. Definitely it will help India in better assessment of their population in a different manner. Next article talks about a glimmer of hope. The Supreme Court now going to give its final directions on the same-sex marriage. Now we are getting this article from last few weeks about the same-sex marriages and Supreme Court opinions on it. Supreme Court right now asking the government to propose this, to give their stand on the same-sex marriage. Now, same-sex marriage was legalized in 32 countries, and Netherlands is the first country in 2001, and the Asian country is Taiwan, which legalized in Asian region. Now, what are the major issues here we need to understand? The cultural acceptance is one of the greater challenge for this issue. But what is interesting is, according to one scholar article, the Indians are not unfamiliar with this. Indians are familiar with this issue. Like Salim Kidwai and Ritu Vanita tells us that ancient Indian texts and inscriptions and paintings on temples clearly homosexual is not an aberration, and they believe that apart from this, the Europeanization of India during that time, they placed this IPC 377 to implement the similar provisions in European countries. However, Indian Supreme Court gives its stand on the same-sexual marriages in different occasions. It also stated that it, for the first time ever, it mentioned this issue in Naute's Johar versus Union of India. It clearly stated that the IPC 377, section 377 is unconstitutional. Apart from that, in the KS Puttaswamy judgment in 2018, which clearly stated that right to privacy is one of the hallmark of Indian democracy, and it comes under Article 21. Now, coming to the point of the marriage, in Shaktivahini versus Union of India, Supreme Court opinion that it is the mind of the two adults consensually choose each other life partner. It is manifestation of the choice recognized under Article 19 and 21. In Shafeen Jahan versus Ashokan KM, which is popularly called as Hadia case in 2017, Supreme Court validated the marriage of Hadia, who is Ashokan, Akila Ashokan earlier, and it stated that society doesn't have any role in deciding the partners of the adult. Now, all these things is clearly indicating that the marriage is a private affair and they can choose it. In comparatively, European Court of Human Rights in 1981 also struck down the offences and highlighted offences which are associated with this criminalization of same-sexual marriages, and also highlighted the human rights to protect privacy. In South Africa also, there is a decriminalization in National Coalition for LGBTQ 1998. And last but not least, in USA also, which is also providing an opportunity for the personal liberties. And personal liberty is also important in USA politics. So considering all these factors, India should also come out of the stigmatization and should allow the marriage under the Special Marriage Act. But the changes are required right now in the Special Marriage Act, because Special Marriage Act directs officers like magistrate, marriage officer of district need to publish the brides and bridegroom, and he will receive the objections, and then he will proceed. If there is no objection, he will proceed towards the marriage. So that is a very time-taking process and also creating a lot of conflicts. So now Supreme Court is waiting for the next step. Let us wait and watch for the next important issue. Next article talks about municipal corporations in India are gasping funds. This article is talking about lack of funds and everything. You can just read the article. Next, state government's power to form committee on UCC cannot per se be challenged. Recently Supreme Court, Uttarakhand government appointed Ranjana Prakaseh Desai to investigate the matter of Uniform Civil Code implementation in their country. And this comes under marriage and divorce and infants minors adoption issue, which was also in the concurrent list. So Supreme Court said that it doesn't have any problem with that process of UCC implementation. And apart from that, Article 162 also said that it has a power to legislate on the issues on the entry 5 of the concurrent list, which is the issues regarding marriage and divorce and adoption. Last article talks about in aftermath of riot, Brazil vows to protect the democracy. Now we should remember this Brazil article from the background of the issue. What happened was the Brazil recently concluded elections, and finally Brazil got a new president, Lula da Silva. However, the right-wing leader, the former Brazilian president Jair Bolsonaro, having some issues, the people who have solidarity towards Bolsonaro president and his candidature, they started to protest in Brazil. The protest reached the highest level yesterday, and it reached to the very unfortunate situation. The protesters smashed the windows and overturned the furniture of the important places like Presidential Palace, Supreme Court, and the Congress, that is Parliament. What is unfortunate is they destroyed the artworks, traditional Brazil artworks, and they stole the original Constitution 1988, which is also unfortunate. In a solidarity note, Prime Minister Modi expressed his concerns about the riots and vandalism against the state institutions in Brazil capital, Brasilia. So it is important that democratic traditions must be respected, and we should respect the people's mandate also, because as per the quotation of Abraham Lincoln, elections are not for the power, it is for the people. That's all for today. Thank you so much and Jai Hind.